is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf. The U.S. can't use Philippine bases for China offensive, Marcos says. This is a really odd thing coming out of the Philippines, considering all of the stuff we have been doing with them together. We actually talked about this about a week ago, how, obviously everybody who questions our current prez and goes, well, he's doing everything right and by the book, this would be a really good thing to stop Xi from advancing. Controlling their neighbors controls them. But essentially, we've been doing all these drills and saying we're going to stick up with them. Now the Philippines is saying that they can't use their bases for an offensive. It's kind of an odd thing to come out, don't you think? It says that Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that the U.S. can't use military bases in his country for offensive action against China in the event of a future conflict over Taiwan, as the Southeast Asian nation continues to balance strengthening American defense ties with increasing pressure from Beijing. It says, quote, I think we are in a lockstep with the U.S. with that, Marcos said, and that they understand that the concerns that the Philippines has and are sensitive to the reasons why we have those concerns. Well, why would they care about that? Maybe because they'll get wiped off the map if our guys are there during an offensive. I don't know. Something is a little bit off here. So we'll talk about this and much, much more. We're going to talk about Black Start, the program that ended up getting access during SolarWinds, why people stopped talking about it, and why it is increasingly important. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Black Star, Black Star, Black Star, Black Star. What is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, this is a live show, and we're going to go over all of the current events that have been going on, but we're also going to back it up with a bibliography over on our website. So if you want to grab a second tablet, you can do so. Go over to marfooglenews.com, and you will find that every single article, tweet, video, picture, document is there, and all you have to do is look for today's thumbnail. Once you go there, you will see that it has a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today, on top of all sorts of other great information. On the overflow, there will be all the stuff that we could not fit in for today and all of the caller information. Today, we do have callers, so I will be adding the number down at the very bottom in just a second. Today is a call-in, so we have been hyping it up all week. I hope that we get some new callers. If you have imperative information, call us at 2244-00-MARF. Again, that's 2244-006273. And when you go to our phone tree, press the option 4, and you'll actually get a hold of Dex. Speaking of which, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother / will be man in the phones today. Dex James, what is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So I will be, well, first of all, before you start taking calls, let's go back to this first Philippine story, and then I'm going to be adding the phone number down to the bottom so everybody can start calling in. What do you think about the Philippines saying that we cannot, we can't use their bases for an offensive? It's kind of odd for them to do that, right?
It certainly is, and I don't know if they're just mincing some words here, and they're only saying it's offensive in a sense that we're going after them versus we're defending someone else. So I'm hoping that what he's really referring to is, hey, I'm not allowing you to come here to go intentionally attack China, but instead, if you're here for defenses, then that will be okay. And in the sense of what we've talked about with Taiwan or other locations throughout the Asia Pacific, then that would make sense. So, but yeah, it is really shocking that he would even put this out there. In the sense that we just invested heavily. We renewed a military deal there. We expanded all the bases in which we could work in. We held the largest drills there. They've been patrolling all over the South China Sea more regularly to sort of enforce what they claim as their territory. So all of that has been going on just in the last 2 months, just in the last maybe 3 months. It's a lot. And for this to come out, it just sort of flips it around. Maybe, like I said, I'm hoping it's just more of him trying to placate a little bit of his large neighbor there by saying, well, yeah, I won't let him come here to offensively go after you, but from a defensive point of view or in a defensive scenario, much like what we're currently doing supporting UKR you would sort of put that in a defensive scenario, even though they claim to now be going into an offensive mode.
And as far as there's all these weird comments being said all over the place. It's like, what is actually going on right now? So we will talk about all of that today. And of course, if you are wanting to call in, 224-400-MARF, that phone number will be down at the bottom. There might be some spelling errors in an old article down there, so I will fix that here in time. But first of all, the DOJ detected the SolarWinds hack 6 months ago. Now, this actually came out 7 or 8 days ago, Wired, and then there's been other pieces that have covered it, and there's been little updates to it, but no one covered this. And I am super surprised because no one really talked about this. This is a huge deal. And if we went back in time and they found this out back then, it would mean a whole lot of things would have changed if we found this out 4 or 3 years ago. Basically, why is this coming out in 2023 that it was known 6 months prior or more that essentially this SolarWinds was detected? So that means a whole 6 months that nobody took action on it. Or did they? That's the thing with our former president. He ended up in March 26th, 2019, right at that 6 month mark before this happened in November, or right around October, November is when it kind of came out to the public. All of a sudden, we signed an EMP resilience, basically an executive order to harden ourselves against an EMP. What the heck happened here? So again, it says that the U.S. Department of Justice, Mandiant, and Microsoft stumbled upon the SolarWinds breach 6 months earlier than previously reported. Wired has learned, but was unaware of the significance of what they had found. I'm calling personal BS on that, but that's just my opinion. Of course, I'm giving you the official narrative here. The breach, publicly announced in December 2020, involved Russian hackers compromising the software maker SolarWinds and inserting a backdoor into software served into about 18,000 of its customers. It tainted software that went on to infect at least 9 U.S. federal agencies, among them the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and the Treasury Department. So another thing that I want to point out is, say they have lists, right? They have lists of people that are possibly, on a T list or on a bad list. They could have went in there and deleted those. So there could be people that say were in the very, very back end of this thing that they were watching. They could have deleted those. They could have taken people off of watch lists or fly lists, no fly lists. They could have done all sorts of things. But that's just like breaking the very top of the iceberg off, right? It says, and the Treasury Department, as well as top tech and security firms, including Microsoft, Mandiant, Intel, Cisco, Palo Alto Networks. It says that the hackers had been in these various networks for between 4 and 9 months before the campaign was exposed by Mandiant. So that they were not only in there, they were in there for a long time. And this was a massive hack. It is the largest hack ever known to man. I don't believe there would be one. And the next largest hack will be a hack that takes down everything. That is how big this is. It actually got into not only 9 federal agencies, but all 5 of our military branches, including Space Force. This was gigantic. Something happened here. This was a setup for something that is going to go down. Not to mention, even if you just didn't take any of this, maybe if you are on the crazier side, 2023 is lining up to be a crazy year. Not only that, we've got Baba Ganoush or whatever that lady's name, Baba Ganaga, all of her prophecies, and most of them come true. They also say that we're going to have some sort of trouble with this in 2023. On top of this, it says that they can confirm that the operation was actually discovered by the DOJ 6 months earlier in late May of 2020. It says that, but scale and significance of the breach wasn't immediately apparent. Suspicions were triggered when the department detected unusual traffic emanating from one of its servers that was running a trial version of the Orion software suite made by SolarWinds. According to sources familiar with the incident, the software used by system administrators to manage and configure networks, so this was, again, something that could actually configure how these networks even worked, was communicating externally with an unfamiliar system on the internet. The DOJ asked the security firm Mandiant to help determine whether the server had been hacked. It also engaged Microsoft, though it's not clear why the software maker was also brought into the investigation. And if you really want a really big head trip, when they switched presidents the day of or the day before, do you remember when a chunk of the internet, and I believe it was specifically the DOJ, a chunk of the internet ended up having control swapped over to like some apartment or some little building above a restaurant? If this sounds crazy, it is, and it was something that happened. I just wonder if that has something to do with this, if that was on purpose or if it wasn't on purpose, or if this was part of something where they were getting rid of stuff they didn't want people to see. There was a lot of strange things that happened during this time period, and then not to mention the whole thing that went down in 2020, 2019 with the CV, with the mail-ins, all the crazy stuff that went on. Obviously, there was a lot of funky stuff going on. Now, to be 3-4 years later and not to find out really deep dig stuff, you would think, how did they keep such a big thing? If there was something going on here, and maybe if it was fishy or shady, how would they keep that secret? Well, personally, after covering a bunch of people just going missing or perishing, I wonder about it sometimes. What do you guys think, though? My biggest advice right now, and this is absolutely something that I think that people really should be doing right now, is have extra supplies, have extra food, get your family in whatever way possible without going totally nuts. Tell them that they should have a basic plan. Get some of your family members that are not so into this, tell them in a reasonable and responsible way that you should have some sort of backup plan. You will probably have to be the one who not only organizes it, but to push it through and to make plans. Even if that means, hey, come over for dinner, and then sideswipe them with, hey, here's a binder, we put it together, here's backup plans to go, can you please just keep this in a safe place in your home? This is going to be our backup plans to where we're going to go if there was some sort of emergency in our city. Highly recommend that everybody have some sort of binder or some sort of information. We're not going to have phones, we're not going to have we're not going to have the internet or DuckDuckGo or any other search engine if things go south. And it's most likely going to happen on the cyber front. At least here in the United States, it's a whole lot more likely than, tanks rolling in onto our shores. It's most likely going to be cyber. And they're already saying that this is one of the most likely ways that things are going to go down. And if you look at the time frame of all of this, if there is, and if people are going, oh no, but they have this other agenda, this preserves most of the United States as far as if you did want to take it in any way or damage it. If you did eventually want to, actually take control of a lot of it, you wouldn't want to damage it. You would want to just shut it down. So you wouldn't do an actual nuke. But one thing is all of the talk about nukes right now, through Foogle Fam military member who is active, said that the memos are military right now is focusing on Houston and on New York. Out of the 6 top targets, which they say these are the 6 targets and the reasons why, they are actually focusing on only 2 of those. So that tells me that there's most likely intelligence around either Houston or around New York. And that is why they're doing nuclear drills in Houston or in New York, why they're doing these massive drills. So along with this, cyber and these events, everything is coming up at the same time. So it is now closer than ever. And this isn't to scare people. Again, people watch this content because this is something they want. If you don't want this in your life and you don't want to stress about this, then don't watch it. Again, you might go, they're fear-mongering to get viewers or something. We have the same views no matter what we do on this channel. This is a real piece of advice. If we talk about Bigfoot or if we talk about nuclear bomb, it doesn't matter. We have the same amount of people. We have loyal people here. So I'm telling you guys right now, out of all the times we have said, hey, you should have a plan, right now is the time to have a plan. And I'm telling you that from my heart. I hope that everybody tries to have a basic plan. Don't go nuts on this. Understand if you are in the U.S., you're very safe in some ways, but you're not safe in others. If the grid goes down and all of this stuff happens, your biggest worry is going to be probably your neighbors. So tell your neighbors to have a basic plan. Do whatever you need to do, but do it responsibly. Do it with a level head. That's what everybody needs to do. Get some extra water. Watch videos. City Prepper actually has a great video on how to store water. There's all sorts of great channels right now. Well, you have all of this plethora of stuff we take for granted, like the internet. Look up on how to do stuff. Learn how to store things. Learn how to do it cheaply. Alaska Prepper has the Payday Preps. Great series that he does, and you can get it cheaply. All right, and thank you everybody for also sharing out that Marfoogle news video. I hope I really mean it. We talk about this all the time, but how can you go above and beyond and say, hey, really, really get yourself ready? And the last year has been like this. I even told my mods, people need to have, this was like a year ago. I told them, where is your stocks at? Now we are closer than ever. Many of us and the many people that I've talked to on and off camera, other peers of mine, they all believe that this is going to go down not only this year, but even really soon, like in months. And I sure hope it doesn't. I hope I can be corrected in 6 months from now and they say, I thought you said it was going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it sure looks like everything is lining up for this year. So please get yourself a basic plan with your family. It is definitely a good suggestion to have 4 basic routes to get somewhere and a backup place. Thank you, everybody over on DLive. Life is better on stilts. Nice to see you again. Scooby Doo Do Right, Yobi, Beer Juice, Cloud Pharrell, Priscilla R, Sunshine 15, Kimbria, and everybody else over there. Good evening, all. Hey, Yobi, nice to see you and welcome back. And then Isaiah Almanza, thank you for your support yesterday. And then, of course, Brian, thank you. Kay Parker Frazier, thank you as well. Much love, Foogle Fam, Adam Dex, and Mods. Well, thank you. And then Nana of Montana, thank you for the support and thank you for the fireworks there. I appreciate that. But again, also make sure to try to get yourself stocked up on everything. Make sure if you're going to support, make sure to have yourself lined up first. It's getting up there. It's crazy. All right, and then remember you can call in 2244-00-MARF. Again, that's 2244-00-6273, and make sure to press option 4 when you get to the phone tree. Clearview AI scraped 30 billion images from Facebook and other social media sites and gave them to cops. It puts everyone in a perpetual police lineup. So I have not had Facebook for years, but it doesn't matter. If you've had a Facebook or if you've ever had a Facebook, your photo is probably one of these 30 billion photos. This is something we actually kind of talked about. They did scrape before. They've scraped the photos off the internet, but I believe it was a different agency. Now Clearview has actually scraped these and given them to regular police. There's photos that are going into the facial recognition systems that are now going to be put in place. We warned people about this years ago when they started filing patents for even home security cameras like Ring Doorbell and all of these other ones. I believe Ring was one of the first ones that actually implemented patents in their regular, Ring Doorbell cams. They ended up putting this in patents for facial recognition. Not only that, to be able to connect with local police. Imagine a day in the near future where criminals are caught not, from some store camera, but they walked by a house with a Ring doorbell that, clicked a little box, or unknowingly their security camera ended up spotting a criminal. What's really crazy about this is, say you have somebody in your family that's wrongfully accused. They come to your house. The second your doorbell spots them, all of a sudden there's a invisible call to the police going, and in about 5 minutes you have the police at your door because of your doorbell camera ends up spotting them. I mean, this stuff is getting crazy. And with this many photos, they'll be able to make a profile on pretty much everyone. And this is just our regular police. This isn't an NSA or anybody else. So it's getting really, really nuts. It says it's pretty astounding. It says a controversial facial recognition database used by police departments across the nation was built in part with 30 billion photos that the company scraped from Facebook and other social media users without their permission. That's the big part here. Without their permission. How do you feel about this? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you even have Facebook? I would love to see our audience, how many of you have it, and don't be embarrassed. I would rather you answer honestly rather than go, because that everybody here is going to go, oh, Facebook's bad. If you have Facebook, again, I know that the older folks have it. Young kids do not have Facebook at all. In fact, young kids do not think Facebook is even a thing. This is my generation that really went through the whole Facebook thing, MySpace, then Facebook. But does anybody even have Facebook anymore? Press 1 for yes and 2 for no. I ditched mine about 5 or 6 years ago, but it's still, all of them still exist. Even if you turn it off, it's still there. It's just, in fact, if you sign in once, it just automatically pops back up. Even if you try to delete it, it's all still hanging out there, no matter how many years pass. In fact, I don't know how you actually get rid of it. I don't think there is a way. 50 Shades of Grey says yes, but no pictures. A lot of people started getting worried about putting their photos on, their kids' photos especially. And I told my friends and family, I said, hey, if you're posting your little baby pictures and your kids, those are going to be used for something. And now there's proof of that. But you know what's crazy is most people around us do not care. They say, so what? I'm not doing anything wrong. So why would I care? Well, what if you're wrongfully accused? Or what if you have a doppelganger out there that just happens to live near you and did something wrong? What if a crappy camera catches a angle of somebody that looks like you, and then all of a sudden you are sitting there with a warrant on your name because you slightly look like somebody? This is why it's messed up. They're also using geotagging, geofence warrants, these geospatial warrants that end up, say, if an event or somebody perishes, forcefully, say at a 7-Eleven, they can then go back and look at all of the cell phones that were in that place. Then in that 5-minute period of when it happened or when they think it happened, they can go, this cell phone was here. They can actually go get a warrant on that now. And what if you left right before it happened, but then you end up getting pulled in and you're a main suspect just because your cell phone was at that location anywhere around that time. And it's not always accurate either. So these things, I think this should be a bigger deal than it is, but it's not. Make sure to give us a call at 224-400-MARF. If you do want to call in, you would definitely want to call in now. China already has, Angela. Yeah, they have the most intricate facial recognition system in the world. Yeah, I think they have like something over 1 billion cameras. And if you think about this, we covered a story that went over the actual stats on how many cameras here are actually made in China, and most of them have proprietary software. So think about this: the country or the government could, the Chinese government could be surveilling this entire country right now with no issues. Obviously, we know that they've done it with other stuff, and then like DJI, between all of the proprietary software that the cheap Amazon security cameras that everybody has, between that, DJI, and everything else, they probably have like a Batman vision of the entire United States. It's a scary thought to even think. And then shocking images show the 2-mile-long encampment of people living in RVs, trucks, and trailers. Shocking images show the 2-mile-long vehicle encampment made up of people living in RVs, trucks, and trailers along Highway 101 north of San Francisco, as low-income people are pushed out of the housing market. Hundreds of locals in one of San Francisco's wealthiest counties have been forced to pack up their lives into RVs and trailers after being pushed out of the housing markets. Shocking photos show the ever-growing line of trucks and other vehicles along Highway 101, which now stretches over 2 miles in one of the largest encampments in the country. Cities in Marin County, where the average homes cost $1.4 million. Now, I'm not shocked by this. Here, the average home is around that. In Seattle, it is absolutely insane. Houses are $1.4 million or $2 million that anywhere else would be a $200,000 shack. I mean, for that much money in, say, Houston or something like that, you could literally get a mansion with a basketball court or a pool. Here, it gets you a tiny house. Not a tiny house, but it gets you nothing. And it says photos and videos taken by dailymail.com show families living in tents and using portable barbecues as their belongings spill out of the RVs and trucks. So, mind you, we have these here in Seattle. They've been all over the place. A lot of Walmarts very nearby. A lot of Walmarts are used as kind of camping ground. People can essentially park there, move overnight. I have lived in an RV like this, so I have a unique view on this. I've lived in RVs. I've lived in a trailer before. I have lived in the back of a truck, like an actual truck bed. And I feel for these people. In fact, back when I was renting one when I was like 19 or 20, we had to move it like every 3 days. And I would say, from somebody looking on the outside in, they say, oh, how absolutely horrible this is. These are people just trying to get by. I was working 2 jobs and then would come back to a leaky camper behind an Albertsons, and essentially I would have water dripping all sides of me. I had to have like cardboard freaking going either way to block it, because I was renting for like $20 a week or something from basically a slumlord of trailers. And I lived with all sorts of folks that lived in this. And there were people that worked at Microsoft. There was Microsoft chefs. There were people that worked at Expedia. There were all sorts of folks that were living there. And this was before all the crazy stuff went down. I don't know if it was before 2008. It's pretty close to where after the housing market crash is when it happened. And I will say this. It's this crazy inflation, the housing market, everything else, along with the jobs not paying any more than they were 5 years ago, yet everything has basically tripled and quadrupled in price, is driving people out here. So I'm not judging these people as far as what's going on here, but this has to be fixed. Like, this is horrid. I'm praying for everybody that is probably a part of this. Obviously, this has a direct correlation. This isn't just people that are, drug addicts or, had down on their luck. I mean, like, this is people that probably had a house, a year ago or 2 years ago. It's really, really sad, and I'm praying for each and every one of them. So I hope everybody does too. This is happening everywhere, and it's mostly certain cities and certain states that are running their country into the ground, or their county into the ground. And then Google engineer jumps to his perishing second worker in months. And specifically, so this is kind of a crazy one, and daddy of this platform is the one doing this, but so the two employees from the same place ended up doing a Russia move, right? It says a senior software engineer at the Oogs jumped to his from the search giant headquarters in Chelsea late Thursday, according to authorities and police sources. The 31-year-old man, whose name is being withheld pending family notification, plunged from the 14th floor of 111 8th Avenue around 11:30 p.m. Police responded to multiple calls of an unconscious person lying on the ground near the building on West 15th Street. Now, this is not just a low, whatever. This is a senior engineer. And if you look at what's happening in Congress and the people that are being called out and what is happening right now, so everybody's focusing on the Bill and Melinda stuff, right? Everybody's focused on the EpiPen stuff. as it was pointed out, great show on it with Whitney Webb on Redacted. There were 4 really high up people that were actually essentially asked to testify at this whole EpiPen thing. One of them being one of the very, very top people at the platform, right? So I just think it's funny around the same time period that 2 people end up sadly losing their lives. And again, I am praying for the family of these people, and who knows what was going on there. But obviously had to show you that because I think it's pretty interesting. And then if you do want to call in, 2244-006273, make sure to call in now. And again, thank you, Nana of Montana. Thank you, J.R. Pale Horse. I appreciate you. Says, remember when TSA was temporarily 20 years ago? Oh, maybe, I think you missed shut down. Shut down, maybe? I don't know. J.R. Pale Horse, I think you missed a word there. Maybe I'm just slow. And then 12667-367, thank you. Thank you for your support. And then Steve McQueen, thank you for following. Billingsley, thank you for following. Black Card, thank you for following. And then Dale, thank you for subscribing. And everybody else that just subscribed now, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to open up our screener, see who we got. And then remember, you can call in. You got to get in early. I highly recommend new callers. We've got callers lined up. Arlene is on deck. We've got Cousin Williams after that. So before we go to the calls, well, Dex is loading up. Looks like Arlene, a first-time caller. I do want to remind you, make sure to go over and check out Energy. This is our recommendation for solar generators. In fact, they have 3 of the best solar generators on the market right now. In fact, the Energy, the Flex 1500, is the Energy X2, the Flex 1500 are 2 of the best different units that you can get out there. The Flex 1500 is modular. It can be added onto. It's like a Lego system that you can build onto. You can actually expand it up to 96 batteries. It doesn't take any gas, and you can actually add mods that change how it works. So instead of a max of 4 solar panels, you can actually change it to where it takes 12. In fact, that's what's pictured right there. That's the supercharger mod. And what it allows you to do is actually add in 12 panels rather than 4, thus tripling your charge time, or at least cutting it in a third. This also can be expanded to be a UPS system right now. Now you can actually make it an uninterrupted power supply, essentially meaning when something is plugged into it and the power goes off, say your fridge or something else, or a whole power bar, when the power goes off by a storm or whatever else, it will end up automatically switching over to the Energy Flex 1500. The X2 is an all built-in one that has the new lithium iron phosphate. This is good for somebody who just wants a basic unit, something that, say, has for like a day worth of power, and you don't need any more than that. This would be a good unit for that. You can't expand it, but you can dual link it. If you just want to get 1 or 2 of these are really good for anybody that has an RV or for van life. This would actually suit most people's needs in that arena. Even if one didn't, you could do 2 for a larger RV or van, something like that. So make sure to go check it out. It ends up supporting us. We're on our own. We don't have a multi-channel network. We have the Foogle fam, so go to marfooglenews.com/energy. It's one of the best out there. And again, it's not a cheapo knockoff. This is the real thing, so it is worth saving up for, and it's definitely great if you go for the Flex, because that one you can build up over the years and make it better and better and better as you go. And it's future-proofed as well. All right, let's get Arlene. We have Arlene. You're live on Marfoogle News. What's going on?
Hey, Adam. Hey, Foogle fam. How are you all doing tonight?
I'm doing good. So, Arlene, what did you want to talk about tonight?
The whole EMP thing with the balloons flying over and lasers and stuff. There was a representative in the state of Maine a few years back there that went on and told the world on the news that our grid was unprotected and outdated. And she just gave it all to the world, so now they know our vulnerability. And now we've got all these neat things coming through up in our skies. Kind of scary. I think an EMP is inevitable, and it's not too far out. And we keep stepping on toes that we shouldn't be stepping on. It's going to get us in a lot of trouble.
Yes, it is. As far as what you're referring to, which person was that again?
She was a female governmental official. She went on the news in Maine there a few years back. I can't recall her name off the top of my head, but she just put it all out there for the world to know that we weren't protected.
Well, that's a sad thing as far as like the protection. So because we work with EMP Shield, some of the basics are EMP Shield said that they didn't unsign the bill. There's an executive order that went into place. And specifically, the Department of Homeland Security listed all of these different companies that they ended up calling up for this executive order. And so say EMP Shield it was a small veteran-owned company at the time. It was very small out of Kansas. Well, then when this happened, there were only a few kind of businesses that they wanted to grab for this specific kind of protection. And they ended up putting this executive order through. And what ended up happening is they were basically on a fast track to harden our entire grid. Well, apparently, right the first day when the next president came in, what they're not doing is they didn't undo that one. He undid almost all of the other executive orders. If you guys remember that first day when JB was in office, he undid almost everything. He didn't undo the EMP executive order, which had bipartisan support, but essentially they're not enforcing it. They're not pushing it through. There's all of these holdups on it. And I think it should be the top priority for our entire country. I mean, this is one of the most realistic, one of the most probable, and one of the most, by the numbers, as many countries have this, it should be our top priority. And I don't understand why it's not. Do you agree, Arlene?
Yeah, she was on like 3 or 4 years ago on it.
Well, I don't know. I know that as far back as, 2015, people have been talking about it for a long time. There was a book wrote by, I want to say it was Blackout, but there was a book that was done in 1999 by a government official as well. And then there was several other books that came out. I think people knew, but I don't know. I think that if you know that every other country knows we have this vulnerability, why wouldn't that be, right at the top of the stack? Arlene, if an EMP happened,
one would expect so.
Would you be ready if you didn't? Do you have enough food and enough water to take care of yourself and your family?
I wish I do. I currently live in my Jeep, so I don't have much of anything. My mom passed away a year and a half ago, almost a year and a half ago, from an intervention due to the whole whatever that mess was that we went through, and it put me in my vehicle. So living off disability, you don't have much.
So seeing that previous story about how many people are being pushed out of San Francisco, you can obviously relate to that, right? Living in your Jeep.
Very much so, and I'm seeing it more and more every day.
Do you see other people that are just normal, regular people that are also, obviously there's areas, I know from if you live in your car, if you live in your truck or something like that, there's certain areas that everybody knows you won't get towed or they don't bother you there. Do you end up staying in places that essentially everybody else is too?
Yeah, pretty much. You kind of have to rotate out because you can't stay in one place too long. And there's actually places in Maine now, like Lewiston, that is outlawed homelessness. If you're caught sleeping in your vehicle on government property or town property, you can be actually arrested for it. They're bulldozing over encampments. Yeah, it's getting really bad for the homeless out here.
Do you think that that's wrong as far as arresting people for sleeping in their cars and trucks?
Very much so. We didn't put ourselves in this position. I mean, some did, but most of us didn't. We can't afford rents. Rents hiked because of the whole mess that we had just gone through. So it's not right to be arresting people for being homeless. It's just wrong.
Well, it created more. It's hard to think about some of the CEOs and some of the higher ups at these companies that kind of drove this whole intervention, as you say it, becoming billionaires. There were more billionaires made in like 4 months than ever before, and they were all from the same industry. So it's kind of sick to think that they're buying private jets while we're sleeping in our cars, right?
It makes, I'm disgusted by the whole thing. It was because of that whole mess that my mother was afraid and had to go get an intervention to supposedly protect her. And 1 week later, she was dead. I can't find any excuses for that. I just can't. Money or otherwise, I can't find excuses for it.
Well, Arlene, you should pay attention to the very end of the show. We have 3 articles in a row at the very end. I definitely want you to pay attention to those, and I want to thank you for calling in tonight.
Yeah, anytime. I've been watching you for years and years and years.
Well,
even before your last little girl was born.
Well, thank you, and I'm praying for you. And actually, the last one was a boy. That's how long you've been watching. That was 2 kids ago.
Deep is.
Huh?
You had another one?
Mm-hmm. I had a boy.
Hey, you had another one. Good Lord.
Yep.
The last one I remember, we were throwing out names for a little girl.
The chat decided one, actually. Do you know that? It ended up being a chat suggestion.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Well, Arlene, I'm praying for you, and I mean it. I really hope that you can get everything back together, and I have faith that you will, and just understand you just got to take it day by day.
We're doing it. You all have a good night, and we'll keep on watching.
All righty. Thank you, Arlene, and you have a wonderful night. God bless. That was Arlene out of Maine. It's really sad to hear, but I know that she's not alone. We have many Foogle family members that are really struggling right now, and I wish there was I wish that our system wasn't so messed up. And then Xi calls for population plan revamp as China's demographic crisis builds. Chinese President Xi Jinping called on top officials to step up efforts to maintain a quote, appropriate birth rate and population level after data in recent months showcased an intensifying demographic headwind for the world's second largest economy. In a first meeting of the Central Financial and Economic Affairs Commission since October's leadership reshuffle, Xi highlighted trends including a low birth rate, aging population, and divergence across regions. It says, quote, "We must fully understand and properly treat the new situations of our country's demographic development," Xi said, according to a readout posted on the central government's website. It's critical for China to focus on improving its population quality while keeping an appropriate birth rate and population size, he said. I want to really zoom in on that one part. It's critical for China to focus on improving the quality of its population. Have you heard about the new, these places where they're going to grow babies? You know why, right? They can do designer babies that don't have issues. It's kind of like if you have purebred puppies, right? Purebreds always have a lot more issues. They have all sorts of problems that can come along with them, like certain cancers or certain defects that come with purebred dogs, right? Well, whereas mutts and different dogs will be a lot better. They have less of these weird problems, right? Because they've inbred them so much. Well, so in the process of these designer babies, they can actually tweak the DNA, and they're already doing this. And they have already come up with a concept for a lab that will have these babies grown in an artificial womb. We talked about this a while ago, and now people are starting to really catch on to it, and now it's hitting mainstream. It was covered a little bit ago, but then we talked about this when it was a idea, when it was a suggestion, when it was like, I think we could do this. And of course, it's been in fan fiction and stuff long time. But this is something where they're going to make these designer babies. Think about this. They could reduce the population, but the people they do have, they want it to be the strong. Basically, I think in the minds of some of these people very high up, they want the best out of the best. They want they want to bring up the people that cause the least amount of problems, right? Think about if you design a baby that won't have any health issues, you also won't have any issues taking care of that person, or that person will be a better worker. They'll be a better part of the community, right? I think that's what they mean. They're going to tweak things so they get basically super people that have less problems, right? And I think there's like an inferment there as far as what I think they're actually doing. Now, if you go back to 2018, before all of this stuff went down, there was a lot of evidence coming out that they were messing around with DNA. They were messing around with genes. And they were also messing around with gene-specific weapons. So I just, it's sad that this also makes me think of the show Utopia, which if you haven't seen that show, I know I've said it a bunch lately, but I was blown away by how, even if that was theoretical, like this person thought this up, it's absolutely freaky. I mean, on the 2020 version of Utopia that they did the remake, it got canceled before the second season. They had to put a warning saying this isn't a real thing because it was so close to it could be taken as this real thing. But as far as Xi called for improving Beijing's population development plans to meet the new situation, the message follows recent confirmation that China's population started shrinking in 2022. Talking about the more adults in diapers compared to babies in diapers, right? And then China urges high vigilance over NATO expansion in Asia. Dex, I don't know. I think you're in between. It looks like you're not on the phone right now. Did you want to pop in on the Beijing NATO thing? You had some interesting things to say earlier. I know it might take you a second to get in here, but I know that.
Hey, Adam.
Hey,
yes. I think a lot of the obviously the concern is that a lot of the actions and activities with our NATO partners and Japan and others, where NATO officials have been, having conversations, even going so far as to going to meetings, that it almost feels like NATO, which is the North Atlantic treaty, is actually moving its way into the Pacific. And I think that's where it's certainly showing signs that as these types of actions and activities happen with other of the U.S. or Western allies, whether it be Australia or South Korea or NZ or Japan, et cetera, having these meetings with officials from NATO, participating in NATO meetings, even though they're not necessarily participating as a position of authority or a member, they're participating as an outside interest. I think this is really pulling and poking at Xi and at China. So they're really concerned about it. So they don't want to see that expansion at all. Just like Vlad did not want to see the expansion in Europe, but it happened, and it happened just about everywhere but UKR and Moldova. So yeah, this is a big threat to Xi and to their plans. So they're pushing back against at least from a from a rhetoric point of view.
If you want to control China, you will need to control their neighbors. That's just a fact. What's odd to me is, even though they say this, are we actually trying to move in on them? It was a little bit different with UKR and Finland and everything else, but I don't see them with the current administration pushing in on them, because I think they're almost sabotaging ourselves. And then drones over the Kremlin likely launched from inside of Russia. This is according to our U.S. experts. Now, there's a huge debate about this, and mind you, I guess it's a good thing to debate, because if it was us, and if they know it was us, this is a giant deal. If we tried to directly not only play a part in their conflict, but try to play the ultimate part and to take out their leader, that would be an act of war. That would be like as good as declaring war. I mean, do you guys not agree? Trying to take the head off of the snake. I mean, if this was Kim, they are set up so they will automatically nuke. If this was Kim Jong-un, he has it set up so even if they smell some sort of attack on their soil, they will send nukes. Hopefully, this was a Fantastic Freddy over there. But here's why I personally don't know if it is, because the mainstream media is actually saying a Fantastic Freddy for this. In fact, it might be in this one too. I think it's in all of them, right? Across the board, they're saying these two words that start with an F, right? I'll show you here. I think it's in this one. They're essentially saying that this was a false... And this is those two words, by the way, are out of all of the words on the internet. Those two are the craziest ones, as far as like censors go to, and the rhythms. Those are the two biggest ones, and they're saying that they think that this was done on purpose by them to themselves, like they did with the pipe, and that it's so they will have an excuse to then attack or to do something back, retaliate. It's not even because of just the Kremlin thing that I think this is going down really soon. It's because of the plays that they're making. These are plays to make to move the needle further forward. People are talking about peace talks and peace plans. That's all BS. There's not going to be peace here. That's my thought. What's yours? It says the drones that crashed over the Kremlin earlier this week probably evaded an extensive number of defenses in and around Moscow, suggesting that they might have been launched from inside of Russia's. And it still could be the enemies doing it from inside of Russia, but they're essentially saying it would need to be launched from inside for it to get this close and to hit with all of the defenses they have. I don't know, though, because these drones can be flown extremely low. I mean, these drones, think about this. What's going to detect them if they are at, 10 feet high? They're about this big. And if they're flying over the rooftops and they can fly for miles and miles and miles, however many miles these things can fly, what are they going to do? Defend and basically blow up a building? If they can't see it, then they can't see it. I mean, think about that. If the defenses blew anything at 15, 20 feet, then they would be just basically shooting at the ground and shooting residential areas and all sorts of things. I think that it could have been from outside the country. And because they're saying that it was inside the country, then it makes me think that it was from outside the country, just because usually it's the opposite. But according to them, it could have been from inside the country. That is believable as well. It is believable that it could have been a Fantastic Freddy on their own side, but it's not a good sign for any of us. If you look at all the previous things that have happened, it seems like there's an overall plan to this. Say all of it was orchestrated by one side or the other. Specifically, if it was orchestrated by three-letter agencies from the West, like the entire thing, every play of a chess game is actually planned 4D chess out, and it's all done, what would be the end result? What if one day Russia is controlled by NATO? NATO literally runs Russia, and they have a new leader, a new regime put in. I don't know if that would happen now with China as their buddies. Or maybe that would be part of some sort of grand plan to put the whole world into one place, right? Or under one umbrella. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, so, and this is kind of an important part. Moscow has been very concerned about protecting the Kremlin from drones since at least 2015, when it began using electronic countermeasures to automatically direct them away by spoofing GPS locations, said Ganna Goward, president of nonprofit Resilient Navigation and Timing Foundation, which advocates for tougher and redundant GPS. Spoofing occurs when counterfeit GPS signal is sent to replace a legitimate one, electronically fooling guidance systems on drones or other devices. Dex, I don't know if you're there, but did you also hear about how people in Russia were having problems with their GPS? Was I talking to you about this? Yeah, we've got
that later.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got that later in the show.
So if we're talking about like the GPS going off, I don't know if anybody's made the connection between this and that. Maybe things are going on where they're purposely screwing with it. I don't know. It's kind of funky. So you'll get what we're saying here in just a second when we talk about this story ahead. But yeah, we're going to go back to the phones. We have Cousin Williams talking about the hacking and disintegration of the petrodollar. We're going to bring Cousin Williams in. So Cousin Williams, you're going to have to go through the process to get on the show. While we do, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. This is the device I've mentioned that can actually protect your vehicles against an EMP or a CME. Again, this can protect against both electromagnetic pulses and CMEs. So if we have the natural occurrence of a Carrington level event, this can allow your vehicle to get out to bug out, or to get home to bug in. It can also protect trucks, RVs. Of course, it can do ATVs, motorcycles. It can do boats. It can also do generators. In fact, the Flex 1500 is the only solar generator you can get an EMP shield for currently. So again, make sure to go check that out as well. And the EMP shield can also be wired in by a professional into your house. It does have to be done by a professional, but once you do wire it in, it will protect everything plugged in within 150 linear feet. That means essentially most houses, everything plugged in will be protected. It's pretty awesome. Now, the car version is the easiest. You can put it in yourself in about 10 minutes. Watching a YouTube video, anybody with no mechanical knowledge could put this in. And I believe this will keep a lot of people running after an event like this happens. This is, again, even if we don't have EMP-related stuff, we have EMP stuff tonight and the Black Start stuff. But even if we don't, we're recommending this year-round, 365. People should be doing this. The more people that protect themselves against this, the better as a country we will be. That goes for Europe, too. You guys are looking at your own set of threats. I don't know how many Europeans end up getting EMP shields because you can, but I think that people in the U.S. should most definitely look into this. All right, let's get Cousin Williams on the line. Cousin Williams, you're live on Marfoogle News.
Here.
What is happening?
How about it, Marv?
So the hacking and disintegration of the petrodollar. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, it's obvious all around us with the homeless stories that you were speaking of, with the fact that I've watched several people here in Florida since all the stuff that happened with the stuff that caused all the stuff, made everybody move here because our governor said, woohoo, we're open. And basically made it to where everything's doubled. Rent's doubled. If you don't have a 625 credit score, you're living in the ghetto. But it's all smoke and mirrors, man. This whole thing is all smoke and mirrors. It started with the UKR and VLAD, blah, blah, blah. This is a false Freddy flyby all day, every day. The Chinese been fireworks better than that for 2,000 years. That hit the whatever building wherever we can't talk about because we get in trouble. is so ridiculous.
Well, the 2001 September events. Yeah, we got you.
Well, I mean, you know, pun intended, everybody's got a back door, dude, including our government. And they've allowed the sharing of information for whatever, and they call it whatever. And if you go back and look at history, see, the thing is most people can't see the forest for the trees. This goes back over the years. This has been going on and going on and going on and going on and going on to the fact of it is so blatantly obvious now, and we have the tools to actually research and find the truth to see who funded what, when, where. And if you look back and see who funded the Ruskies went Ruskies, and then whoever the other country went with the Cultural Revolution and all that other stuff. It was all funded. You know? That's 100,000 people show up in Texas in the same day. Funded.
So, but how does this fit into the petrodollar and the dollar disintegration and the hacks?
Well, basically, we had to print more than we thought we were going to, so we decided to print as much as we possibly could so that everybody that owed us money now has to pay us back in money that is totally valueless. What a great scheme. And the whole UKR, blah, 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 Vlad, blah, 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 yada, 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 and NATO, boo-boo, Pacific, yada, yada, Yaiwan, Yishan, whatever, whoever. It's all a big, giant Urkel-Irk. And it has been for, well, at least 150 years, if not longer. But it's all been in motion since the early mid 1800s, and it's actually goes back way further than that, back to the turn of the BCs to the ADs. And you start talking about the urches and things like that, and people start going, well, you might be a little off the rocker, kid. I go, no, it's all there in the books.
Well, Cousin Williams, we're at 6.5 minutes, so we're a little bit over time. Did you want to make a statement and wrap up as far as what you think about what's going on?
Get ready, because we all have a central bank digital currency account already with it. And you better play nice, because they can turn you off with a flip of the switch. Good day, gentlemen.
Good day, Cousin Williams. Great point. And, of course, that was actually talked about the CBDC stuff. Will probably be the subject of a whole show in the near future. That was Cousin Williams, and if you were curious, he's Floridian. So I think he's right as far as how it's been going nuts in Florida. We just covered something 2 or 3 days ago talking about how because of so many plants that went basically over to Florida, now there isn't the cheap areas anymore. I mean, there is, but there isn't. Dex, you're close to Florida, and you go to Florida because it's right down the road from Georgia. Have you noticed a difference in Florida since the last 10 years?
Oh yes. It's the new California, so to speak. Yeah, in some ways, and I'm sure people in Florida will say, Dex, you're wrong. Stop saying that. But I have a lot of family down there. We go to Florida quite often. I mean, because it's the neighboring state and it's where everybody goes to vacation. So yeah, everything's expensive down there. People can't find homes. Rents have gone up. Prices and homes have gone up dramatically because everybody's moved there. most certainly, and for various reasons, but obvious reasons in the last, few years as we went through that the CV era. That just sort of put a big highlight on people that didn't like where they were living or the rules they were living under, said, hey, well, I can go down there, it's a lot better. And it just made things a lot worse down there. But I guess they'll get used to it, or they'll level out at some point. But at the same time, it's not easy to all of a sudden have your house cost twice as much so that you can't move, which then means taxes, just the taxes alone on your house is through the roof, because Florida's so expensive, especially when you start layering in things like hurricane insurance and everything else. Cost of living there is very high. It reminds me of California not too long ago. And his point he was also making about the Fantastic Freddy was specifically about what I called the fireworks that went off over the building at the Kremlin. He was referring to that, not the September event. But he, that a lot of people, and we'll even talk about it later in the show, think that there's potentially inside reasons why that might have actually been done over there, just like your prior article that said it looks like it was launched from within their own area, not from another country into Russia. So very interesting points, and yeah, that's it.
Wait, isn't it Baba Vanga's? Oh gosh, and there's a Baba Vanga prediction that is, because 2023. I of course, since it's 23, I've been the last 5 years since I found out about like the whole Baba Vanga thing. I was like, wasn't it one of the predictions that it would be somebody who was Russian who took out Vlad, or maybe that was Nostradamus? There's all these predictions and prophecies out there, and I keep a general eye on them. I'm trying to think of what the Baba Vanga one was about Vlad. I thought that she said he would perish and be taken out in 2023 or something around like that. Or is that Nostradamus? And that it would be by somebody in their own country. If that is the case, that would be really weird. Let's see here. I need to make DuckDuckGo my home. I'm always sitting here Googling DuckDuckGo. How annoying do you think it is for them when they see how many times people use it to go there? That's pretty bad. Okay, let's see here. Baba Vanga. I couldn't remember her name. Predictions 2023. See, and this was the blind woman, and we talked about her before. I don't necessarily believe it, but I think these prophecies it's really nuts, especially the ones, the seers or whatever that have been right a bunch of times. Let's see here. 2023. Oh, and this is one I was looking about the other day, and because I was on Donut's show, and there wasn't this Economist cover, the 2018 Duck. Look at this, and I wish I had Jacob actually broke it down on, or no, maybe it was 17. Yeah. Trying to think of which one it was. It has 8 cards, and it has these tarot cards, which are already evil. Yep, this one. So what was crazy is I didn't realize people have attached these to each year. So this one was like 2022. This one was 2021. This one was 2020. The Hermit. Think about what a hermit does. They stay in their home. That's just freaky crazy, right? Judgment. It goes back, and then check this out. This was in 2017. They show, and I think that's the French flag, but somebody also pointed out that this is the same colors as the what was it? One of these ball things that just happened, the Met Gala. But it has the woman, the guy, and then this somebody wearing red, a red dress or red outfit here on the third part, and the storm is over here with the red. There's 2 boxes with 2 X's, basically popping them in the box. But it has, in general, the overall colors, I want to say, are partially the UK Airlines. But here's another one. 2024 or 2023, I think. This one has this star. Why did they do this? There were so many weird things about this. The Magician was like 2022 or something. That was or 2021, 2022 with Meta, which is really crazy because that's before they came out with the Meta name. And I think they did the infinity sign. I don't think that logo was around then. It has VR and then the infinity sign. When did the Meta change to Meta? Maybe it was. But they show them 3D printing houses, right? I don't know if that represents like the tiny houses. But this thing was so crazy. Look at and every year they've had some sort of weird symbolism. And the 2019 one, absolutely nuts. And it does have something to do with what we're talking about. It will all come together here in a second. This was a really good catch by Jacob Israel. This is nuts. This is nuts. When I saw this, and when he said it, I said, "Are you kidding me?" Maybe this isn't clear enough. Next to Putin's face, this is pre-pipeline. And obviously, it says right here, backwards lettering, it says Putin's pipelines. That blew me away. It also has the pangolin. It has all these weird things. And we've looked at this before. You probably already know about it. I'll have to find a high definition one here. Yeah, let's see a high definition one. Yeah, they flipped it. In fact, somebody even mirrored it. Look at that. It says Putin's pipelines. Is that just nuts? Why would they bring up the pipeline on the cover of this? The panda, China, all of this stuff that was on here. And man, evolving, turning into VR, the DNA on the arm. So many weird things about this. This was pre-CV. It makes your brain explode when you look into all of these weird symbols that popped up beforehand. Anyways. Moscow residents report sat-nav disruption before Victory Day parade. Now, honestly, this could actually be because they're defending against things and they're spoofing GPS symbol. I don't know if that works. I'm not an expert on this. But it says that residents of Moscow reported problems using satellite nav in cars and on mobile devices this week as the Kremlin stepped up security for the annual Victory Day parade on Red Square on May 9th. Maps from the GPS Jam website showed a high level of global positioning system interference across Moscow on Wednesday and Thursday, the day of the main rehearsal, meaning over 10% of the aircraft overhead recorded low navigation accuracy. This may have something to do with that. But why would they do that to themselves if this thing was actually a Fantastic Freddy? This almost seems like there would be some evidence that they are trying to jam things coming in to them. Dex, do you want to pop in on this? Isn't this odd that they're having, and what else could this be? Could this be that we're messing with their GPS? If we are, that's bad. Or if UKR is, they pretty much think that that's us. And would that be retaliation?
I'm looking at the map right now. The GPS Jam map, which is at gpsjam.org, for anyone that wants to go look at it. It's still showing a lot of red in those areas. And by red means, there's a high level of interference. There's multiple GPS systems. So typically when people say GPS, they mean Global Positioning System, which is the one the US put up. And then of course there's other versions of it that that Russia has and other countries have, but GPS generically is the one that most systems use, just because it's there, it's been there, it's, you know, tried and true. All the phones, et cetera, are built off of it. I don't know. You know, it's interesting to see that this is happening. Certainly, there would be a defensive reason for them to try to jam that, and because if they think that that would help prevent smaller drones that would use that type of system versus, say, you know, full-on military equipment that would have backup systems and other types of you know, directional navigational systems in them that could, you know, potentially fly without GPS or using alternative GPS systems. So I think they're looking at this definitely as a threat. And this is one of the many, you know, interesting things that's going on since this alleged, you know, drone incident over Kremlin. And I'm just going to call it that because they've called it many different things, but you know, even when you look at it, it doesn't necessarily meet up to what they're describing. But yeah, this is GPS, and it's gpsjam.org for those that want to look at it. It shows interference on the GPS signals. And yeah, there's still quite a bit in Moscow and in the regions to the east, as well as south east of that area. So that's the story.
They could be related, but if that interference is directly related to something they're doing to protect themselves, it may take away from the thing that they may have done this themselves, unless they were trying to do that on purpose to make it look like they didn't do it to themselves. Who knows? I don't know if anybody else has had this, but everybody talks about ringing ears and you know, tinnitus or tendonitis. What? Not tendonitis. Is it tinnitus? The ears ringing thing. Either way,
it is.
My ears have been going nuts several times in the last year, especially. It's been just getting really bad. And I've told you guys I'm losing my tone, like I'm getting tone deaf because my ears are so bad. And it's weird because I get these bursts of like shh. And I have talked to doctors. They say, "Oh, it's probably just normal. You know, your ears ring sometimes." It said it was normal. I said, I don't know. I think it's in modern day, we have surrounded ourselves with all sorts of different frequencies and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then Russia is canceling the Victory Day celebrations to hide its military losses and using alleged Kremlin drone strike as an excuse. So now Russia appears to be reducing its annual Victory Day celebrations this year so it can conceal the degradation. Now, we actually covered, they originally canceled it just in the Bryansk region, and that was closer to the border. And it said in the Washington DC Institute for the Study of War said in an update on Thursday that Russian officials are likely using the supposed attack on the Kremlin to cancel additional parades that were set to take place on May 9th. Guess why? They say they don't want to show how much gear and stuff they've lost, right? It says likely hopes to limit typical May 9 events to conceal the degradation of the Russian military. I personally don't believe this. And I'm not saying it's because it's a positive thing for them. I just don't believe that's why. But they can take any thing that they do and go, hey, let's spin this in a way that makes somebody look good, right? I'm looking for the objective truth here. I don't think that UKR has done that much damage to any of their stuff that they would have in the parade. The stuff they have in their parade is going to be their T-90s, their Terminator tanks, all the crazy stuff, and they haven't been using those. All of the jet, if they wanted to parade their big missiles and stuff like that, they have those still. They haven't sent their nukes. They usually parade their huge, crazy stuff, their advanced stuff. I don't think they're out of all of that. But that's just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think that they're canceling it to hide their losses? I mean, that seems like a spin to me by kind of the narrative building around this. And then UKR shoots down a Russian hypersonic missile using Patriot system. Now, remember, this isn't like, they can't prove this yet, but if this is true, that means the Patriot system is way better than we thought. Second, it means that the Patriot system can shoot down hypersonic missiles, If it's not, I don't really understand the purpose. It says UKR says intercepted a Russian hypersonic missile for the first time. Or it means that these missiles aren't truly hypersonic and that they're not as hypersonic as we think. Images purportedly showing the fragments of a downed KH-47 M2 Kinzhal missile, which claims to fly at 10 times the speed of sound, were published by the UKR Defense Express outlet. It says the wreckage of the missile, known in Russia as the Dagger, fell on an empty football stadium in Kiev after a loud explosion was reported in the early hours of Thursday. The bang coincided with the long-range Russian barrage using handmade drones and less sophisticated missiles targeting the UKR capital. So they're saying that this is essentially this hypersonic missile, or it could be a normal one that they labeled as such. I don't know. It basically either they're not hypersonics, or they made a model of one and they're just making this up completely. Or it was a failed Kinzhal missile that just went down and it was a dud or something and they used it as an opportunity. Or Russia's lying and this is a normal missile, and there's all sorts of options here. But it may also say that our Patriot systems can take these things down, which I don't think is possible. I don't know, though. I'm sure some of the military here know much more about that than I do. And if you're an expert on it, then please let people know what you think about it. And then, did a military lab anthrax into public waterways? This is freaky. It says in 2019, federal lab regulators ordered the prestigious U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, or USAMRID, to halt all work with dangerous pathogens such as Ebola and anthrax, which can pose a severe threat to public health and safety. It says Army officials had assured the public that there was no safety threat and indicated that no pathogens had leaked outside the laboratory after flooding in 2018. But in a new book released April 25th, investigative reporter Allison Young reveals that there were repeated and egregious safety breaches and government oversight failures at Fort Detrick, Maryland. You know what's really freaky is do you remember when Xi they claimed, Dex, I don't know if you remember this, but Detrick was the one that they said was where the Civ came from. Do you remember that?
That's correct. Yeah, that's been a claim by many of the different theories that are out there, said it started there, but that's not been proven. Well,
no,
I'm not saying one way or the other, but that is one that a lot of people, there are a lot of theories out that go with that. Absolutely.
I didn't know that they had a flood. I didn't know about this whole event. I knew that they said and the only way I knew about that was because of that op-ed that came out in all of the Chinese papers saying that we basically attacked them, right? Which is kind of crazy. You think about how they did their zero policy and shut down for 3 years straight. It's weird.
And what's also strange is that it's coming out in like a book, and somebody's putting out like this information that they knew, and they clearly knew that this happened, but they didn't report it, or it wasn't reported. Obviously they were shut down, or not shut down completely, but disallowed from having the high level stuff because of those concerns. But the fact that what we're finding out now after the fact was the carelessness that was going on there was actually more severe than they told us. They said it was like, we're not sure they're handling things right, so we're taking that away. But it turns out it was so bad that they were pumping tons of water out of the contaminated water that went over a wall into a stream, and they just didn't see it. They just didn't notice, and it happened for a long time. And that's kind of scary for any lab, for that matter, let alone a military one.
I mean, we're talking about some of the most dangerous stuff we've ever even discovered, Ugh. There's more. There's a lot more. The last three, pay attention to, because they're going to be crazy ones. Before we go to our next caller, we've got Heartbroken Survivor. I'm actually excited about this. We're going to get Heartbroken Survivor from Florida on. But I do want to remind you guys, if you don't have survival food, this is a really good resource for not only affordable survival food, but you actually get a lot of benefits with going through us as well. So you can get the 3-month supply of freeze-dried food that can last 25 plus years. And with that purchase, you're going to end up getting a ton of free survival gear as well. You're going to get basically a kit with all sorts of things that will complement this. So again, they have all sorts of little gadgets. It's essentially going to come with a $200 value of survival gear and different things to complement the food. The great thing, just separate that, even if there wasn't any kind of extra gear or free stuff with this. As far as freeze-dried food is a good idea. Obviously, if you could, it would be great if everybody was able to get a freeze dryer, but they can run extremely expensive. They can run up to $3,000-$4,000, $5,000 more. And that's if you get one that can actually do the kind of numbers that you'll need to kind of produce to make enough to actually survive on. If you don't want to do all the work attached with that, or if you don't want to dehydrate yourself, again, dehydrating is another way, you can just go get it done and have it stored away, and it's going to last 25 years. It takes up very little space because they essentially remove the moisture from the food. They seal it in Mylar bags, and then it's sealed then again into buckets. This is something where you just add or cook it with water, and it pretty much revives it back to the original flavor and what it was before. The great part about this as well is that it's affordable, especially when you break it down into how much it is per day to keep yourself fed. And if you look at how this has gone up in the past, over the last 3 years, freeze-dried food has tripled. And if you keep hold on to this, say in 3 years from now, even if you just have a normal storm, if you look at the freeze-dried food market, in 3 years, if it triples again, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you won't have to purchase the triple the price stuff. So people do look at this as sort of an investment, because if it's going to go up in price every single year, then you may want to get it yesterday rather than tomorrow. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Highly recommend looking at the meat kit that they have, because that actually has separate freeze-dried meats that all complement the main kits. You can also get smaller kits like a 3-day kit, a 72-hour kit, and a week, 2 weeks, all sorts of different packages. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. And again, right now with our link, you will get $200 worth of free gear. All right, and then let's get Heartbroken Survivor. Heartbroken Survivor, you're live on Marfoogle News. What is going on?
Hey, darling, a whole lot better, a whole lot less, put it that way.
So,
first of all, Adam, I want you and Dex to know that y'all are doing exactly what the Lord wants you to do. And tonight, I can really feel your emotions. You want to take and shake everybody to get them a wake up, and you're doing your part, and feel good about that, Adam, because you're doing what you can. We can't make anybody do anything, but all you can do is give them the information and hope they take it from there. And God's with you, baby. Don't never think He ain't, because you're doing His work. The next thing I wanted to say was thank the whole Foogle fam for all the prayers and all the thoughts and love that came my way when I've had the last 2 months. It's been pretty rough for me. I'm doing better now. I've had some trips. I started a new patch 2 months ago. It came off. I went through withdrawal. Nobody could understand what was going on. I lost my mind. I couldn't understand English. I couldn't operate a TV button. I couldn't operate a phone. I couldn't even turn on my own air conditioner. I thought I was losing my mind, and it was strictly withdrawal. I've never been so scared in my life. So when all of y'all were sending me all the love, you don't know how much it means to me. And I thank you, each and every one. So now, since I live in Florida, let's talk about Florida.
Well, go back to that for a second. So that's one thing about our chat, besides our show, is like everybody noticed you weren't here. So people started asking about you, and then people realized that you weren't doing too well. So that's one thing I'm really, really proud to say I'm a part of, is just the whole aspect of how people care about everybody in this group. Like, everybody really looks out, and if people don't show up, they actually wonder where you are. They are concerned. So immediately there were several Foogle fan members that were like, what's going on? Because if you guys don't know, if you're new, Heartbroken Survivor has called in before. She is very tough cookie. She is blind, and she has been living on her own forever, and she knows how to navigate her home, and she is tougher than most seeing people. She is absolutely not a complainer or a whiner, and from her previous calls, everybody just loves you. So, and it's just it was really sad to hear that you were going through some stuff. But what did you say? A patch? Was it a what kind of patch?
They put me on an opium patch.
Oh, that's like long release type thing.
Yeah, and I got it on Monday, and I didn't put it on till I talked to Jammer on Thursday. I was scared to death. They sent narco with it. The doctor talked to me for 45 minutes. The pharmacist called and talked to me for an hour. I was scared to death. I didn't know if I wanted to try it or not, and I need it, But I'm gonna tell you, after that first couple of weeks, I didn't know if I wanted to continue it or not. That was an experience I don't wish to repeat.
That's scary that they sent you home with Narcan. Basically, how would you do it to yourself? You know what I mean?
That's the thing. I laid out a plan. I had it in my hand, and I had decided if I felt like I was going to pass out, I was going to go ahead and use it. Because I live alone. I mean, I don't have nobody to do it. My cats ain't going to do it for me. But I talked to Spirit about it. She said she wasn't messing with that stuff. She didn't know nothing about it. But I was scared to death of it. You hear about all these overdoses and people putting it in marijuana and stuff like that. And, I mean, I was terrified. I really was. And Jammer told me I'd be all right. I talked to him. And he said, Sarah, you'll be all right. And after the first couple of weeks, and it started getting a little bit better. Now they bumped me up 3 times. I'm on a 15. And I'm hoping that's going to do the trick, because I don't want to keep going up. I don't want to be addicted. But I'm feeling a lot better. The pain's kind of come down a little bit, and I can cope with it. But you don't know how much it means. You're laying up in a hospital and you think you're losing your mind, and a television's on and everybody is wishing me well and sending me prayers and sending me love, and I'm just an old woman nobody knows, and it's hard to believe that people could care so much that's never met me. I don't know how I deserved it, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm thankful for it. I truly am.
Well,
it makes me feel like I'm not so...
I'm so glad that you're better, and I know everybody was worried about you, and as far as Florida goes, I'm sure, I mean, you wouldn't see what's changing, but you probably can feel it. How has Florida changed for you?
Well, there's no trees on my street anymore. I used to live across 180 acres of pecan tree orchards. There's nothing but houses and condos. There's no trees left except what's on my property and my neighbors. We're the only 2 that haven't sold out. And we still got our trees and our horses and our goats and our cats. But the governor... I know everybody's been talking about him being a good guy. He signs bills that are bad for us as a state in the middle of the night when there's no one watching. He does this kind of stuff, and he's really a very sneaky, and I don't trust him. I don't like him because of some of the things he's doing. book burning and stuff like that, he's gone too far. And you try to talk to him, and he just puts on this silly little show. He's not ready for the big times. I know that. And there is no way he's ready for the big times.
Well,
But
so
I've no.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. There's a trailer park on Massachusetts Avenue that has like 300 trailers in it. 6 months ago, it was sold to another company. All right, that company raised the rent up twice as high for the lot rent as it was, which meant it went from $300 a month to $600. They sold it out again just 2 months ago, and now the trailer lot rent is $1,000. People cannot pay lot rent that's that high, and a trailer payment, and utilities and groceries. They can't. I mean, it makes me cry because people are losing their place to live, and it's not their fault. They're not lazy. They've worked, they've retired, and they can't do anything about it. It's a shame. Our whole state is just going to pot.
Well, and people told me even 2 or 3 years ago, move to Florida, move to Florida. I don't think there's anywhere you can really move right now that's going to be safe long term, because everywhere is going to turn out like this. Any place that's cheap right now is probably not going to be cheap, because everybody's going from the expensive places to those places, and then that's going to bring it with them. As far as like the politics stuff, I usually stay pretty neutral, but as far as look at all of them, they are all like this pre-campaign. The thing I look for is when you hear him, he says all this great stuff, and you're like, this is awesome. He stands up for free speech. But when they do this, when they call out people, like all of these people that are on these congressional hearings that call out and say, you are censoring these people. Oh, what about this? We see these clips, and it makes us feel good, because it's like, this guy's standing up for us. He's actually representing us. And he says, look at this. There were FBI agents here. Or they go, they censored these tweets. When they do that, they're showing off. These are all people that eventually they want to be the president. Once they are in the presidential office, their promises go out the window. They do all of this crap to get into the presidential race, and then if they don't make it, that's like the end of the line for them. They'll go back to whatever they were, and then they'll just go along with anything and everything. We've seen so many congressmen and representatives that ran for president. They spoke a big game, and then once they realize, well, I'm not going to be a president, then they go back to just towing the line and doing whatever they're asked to keep their position and to stay in office as long as possible. They're power hungry for the very highest power, and if they can't get the highest power, then all of these things that they do, I'm standing up for you guys and I want the truth, that's all a show. And I don't know if nobody realizes that. I think people are rooting for the right or for the left. Both sides are totally they've got interests. They all have corporate interests, companies. It's like, do you want to be ruled by this company or that company? That's how I see it.
You're right. They're all the same. There's not any of them different than the other. I mean, you hope you can get a good one, but they're all the same. I don't trust none of them anymore. I lost a lot of faith in the things that I believed in my country in the last 5 years. It's just like you, Mark. It's unreal, but you got to wake your eyes up and find out what's the real. And I love y'all. I want you to know I love each and every one of you, and I love Marf and Dex and the mods. And as long as we keep our hearts together and our minds on a swivel, and listen to Dex and them, not with just your ears, but with your heart and your mind, you'll get it. And you'll get it before it's too late. I promise you that. I promise you that. We'll all come out of this alive. Well, I'm an old woman, and I'm going to tell you, the things I have seen the last 5 years, it just scared the hell out of me.
Well, thank you so much for calling in and checking in, and just continue to do well. And I'm super glad that you got everything worked out. And I know Jammer is a awesome mod, and I'm super glad to hear that he was checking in on you and making sure you're okay, and as well as you said, Spirit as well. I think you said one of the screen name. Is that the screen name? Spirit.
My cat. Spirit is my cat.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm happy for Spirit as well. We've got 4 kittens here, so we might name one of them Spirit as well after your cat.
All right, darling. Love y'all, and keep the faith.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Heartbroken survivor. Thank you. God bless. That was Heartbroken survivor from Florida. She's tougher than most people, and again, she's obviously has her setbacks, but she doesn't let it affect her in any ways. She is just tough as nails. She is the grandma that will beat you up if you mess with her peeps. Let's see here. Ian DeBow says she's a sweetheart. Adam, kitten update now. They're not downstairs anymore. But I during the shouter, if you stick around for the shouter, I'll go grab one. Well, I'll try to grab them. The mom will follow me down, but they're big enough, and their eyes are all opening. It took a long time for their eyes to open. I don't remember it taking that long, but it took like 6-7 days or something. It says 2 to 14 days that their eyes open. One of them still has one that's like half glued. It looks weird, but they are very cute. 2 all white and then 2 gray, and then the one died straight away because one of them came out breech without a tail. It was super weird. Let's see here. Wages World, yeah, she is awesome. And we have awesome mods here. Lots of really great people. And these last 3, very, very important. The W and the H and the O declares the end to CV. Okay, the end, right? And we've been talking about this, since they've basically been rounding down. It says the spread of CV is no longer a global issue, right? The W and the H and the O declared on Friday. It says for more than a year, the pandemic has been on a downward trend with population immunity increasing from the V and infection. Mortality decreasing, blah, blah, blah. The WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said at a press conference, this trend has allowed most countries to return as life as we knew it before CV. Therefore, with great hope, I declared CV is over as a global event. Okay? So they declared it. Yesterday, one of the big head honchos steps down. Got fired, I believe. U.S. CV case count goes dark as public health emergency ends. It says the count of new CVs has been dropping for months. Soon it will disappear entirely. Thousands of Americans still contracting it each week, but when the public health emergency ends May 11th, laboratories across the country will no longer be required to report it. Just like that, it's going to disappear. And the Doug Carroll director, Rochelle Walensky, is stepping down from agency. All on the same day. And yesterday, Dex, what was the thing yesterday? You want to go over that
Yeah, there was 2 things yesterday. One was the person who was in charge of the investigation from the W and the H and the O that went into China was fired for an offense that I think it was like sexual misconduct or something like that. But the offense was from 2015, and the organization knew about it in 2018. But I guess they used that as the reason to fire him, or maybe it just takes them that long to get around to dealing with something that they knew about before this event, the CV event, even happened. And then we also had another issue that was going on with this, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was one other story.
35 people caught this.
Oh yes, at the hotel in Atlanta. That there was a big meeting with the Cat Dog Cat organization, and all these people came in, and mysteriously they had a massive outbreak, and they had to send emails and tell everybody what's going on. 35 people got sick from the current CV. So it's really weird that all of this is happening at the same time in the media right now.
And there was a probe. I wonder if that probe had anything to do with it. So randomly, 35 people that work at the Georgia thing were at this place, this hotel, where there's probably tourists all over the place, or people from out of state, staying at a plaza. And 35, all of them tested positive for the CV. Within 2 days, they're basically just going to go dark. Like, we're not even going to report it anymore. It's over. We're back to normal, guys. But the damage that's been done in the last 4 years, it's never going away. It's changed our lives forever. And I would implore everybody to open up their minds to everything out there. And if you hear something and go, that sounds just nuts, I would say maybe open up your brain a little bit bigger and keep listening. By the way, thank you. Speaking of listening, thank you, Justin True, for sticking around. Dangerous, Rubik's. It's my birthday. May the 4th be with you. I've just realized getting a Cosby sweater isn't what it used to be. I think I just got that, and I don't think I wanted to get that. But Rubik, happy birthday. And then Blue Boy, thank you. 1968 says, hi, Adam and Dex. Another great show, like always. Just thinking it's the King's coronation today. Would not be surprised if there's a Fantastic Freddy. Yeah, we've covered it all this week. The whole thing with the coronation, that's a Baba Vanga thing too. That like a woman queen would lose power. Somebody would take power for a very short time that nobody likes, and then a king who never thought he would be king would be kinged. And technically, it might, even though Harry has resigned his thing, he might actually become the king. It's this whole thing with the queen dying at this time period is why so many people bought, was it Nostradamus' book or Baba Vanga's? Something like that. And everybody started buying the books with all these predictions recently after the queen, because it lines up like really scary with everything else. And then Stephen McMahon, Florida is crazy, and then they buy second, third homes and rent them out for $5,000 a month, condo $3,000 a month, studio apartment $2,000 minimum. Jerry Shirts, that's how it is here. It's nothing strange to me because this is how we've been living since Amazon. Stephen McMahon, Adam Reed, The Brave New World, a book by Aldous Huxley. Babies are born in factories. No families are even allowed. Mother is a dirty word. I think I've heard about that book. I feel like people have been mentioning it since the whole designer baby thing. But thank you for the suggestion. KT Cleans a Lot. Would you kindly give a very special birthday shout out to my bestest friend in the whole world, Danny Lay? We've known each other for 33 years now, and I can't imagine this life without her. Happy birthday, Mrs. Danny. KT Cleans a Lot. I didn't know that you guys were friends. They've been around for a long time too. Danny Lay, happy birthday. I can't do the happy birthday song because it's copyrighted, but happy birthday. Thank you. And thank you, KT Cleans a Lot. Justin True, may Christ bless and be with you all eternally. Aloha. Tennessee Mountain Girl, thank you so much for the support. And Justin True, I hope you're doing well in Hawaii. Thank you for continuing to check in on us. Thank you. And thank you over on DLive. Have to say a very special thank you to Cognitable, Just Jim. Thank you. Cognitable, thank you for the Ninja Guinea. Okay, can't have a car show of one. Life is Better on Stilts, and Johnson. Consider this, challenge of the century. Consider this, the slip that brought me to the Ninja Guinea race. Hey, Johnson, thank you. Again, thank you everybody over on DLive for your support, and I appreciate you all. Let's go over the web only. We've got a little bit of time left. If you want to see the kitty kittens, then you got to stay till the outro, but let's go over the, in fact, while you do the web only, I will go get a couple.
Awesome. Well, head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for today's show. You can do it for last night's show too, if you're looking for the rest of the story. But when you click on today's show, you're going to get to a web page that has all of the articles we just talked about. And then you're going to find this overflow section, this yellow bar. When you scroll down to that section, that's the rest of the story. Everything that we've put together, some of it supports some of the things we've talked about. Some of it is topics that we don't typically cover. And a lot of it is just additional things that are going on that we think is important that you ought to know about. So what's happening right now in the overflow? We've got all the political updates with who's going, which direction between the current administration, T-Man, the lawsuits, DeSantis, all of that stuff is covered there. The latest, even what's going on in Arizona, which is back in the news. So that's all there. So if you're looking for it, you can go there and find it. We do have additional updates from the geopolitical space around China. And then, of course, what's happening in UKR. So we've got the updates about the number. They came out with an estimate on the number of missiles and drones that have been used over a time period from Russia. That's there. An interesting article about how they're potentially weaponizing energy, and they were actually from their point from Vlad to Europe, but now they're suggesting that Europe can turn the tables on them. So if you want to learn more about that, they're now suggesting that there's again, they've talked about this high levels of water at the dam at the nuclear power plant. We've talked about that story before. It's happened before, especially when they said munitions actually hit the dam at one point. So that's back in the news, potentially a problem. Of course, as mentioned earlier, the coronation updates are going on. That's tomorrow. There's apparently a lot of people that are not happy with him. So there is a lot of negativity going on. So the security alerts are very high and what's going on for that event tomorrow. So pay attention. That'll, I know from past reports this week that a lot of Americans are sort of over it and not watching, as we typically have watched a lot of the pomp and circumstance that goes on with UK events, especially around royalty. But for some reason, this event is not one that's really catching on here. I know for those of you that live in the UK, if you like and support your royalty, then this is a big deal for you. So not dissing that heritage of yours by any means, but that's here. There was a massive fire at a refinery. I think it's in Deer Park. That's going on. And then, of course, we've got the obligatory Elon attacks that are happening in the media, going after the blue check marks, what's going on there, as well as even Wozniak, who joined Elon to sign up on the paper again, postponing or trying to get people to postpone AI for 6 months, is coming out and saying, if you want to learn how AI is, taking people out, get a Tesla. So again, like it's funny how they just love to go after Elon. Not saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread either, but it's really, you can just see the bias against him from the media. And of course, that's because they struggle with him in that platform. So that's it. That's that and a lot more. It's all over there on the website. And then once you get past this overflow section, you're going to find the caller information. So notes about what they had called, about who the callers were. So that's all on our website. We put it together for you every night. Everything we talked about in the main show, the overflow section of more content and information for you, and then even the callers. When we have callers on the show, we put their information there for you as well. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or even easier, go down to that description and click on the show notes link below.
Thank you, Dex, and I appreciate that. And yes, that was, at one point she was born on show. Thank you, Dex, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, much love. Great job, brother.
And again, the kitty, I don't know if you guys saw that, we only brought 2 out of the 4. And because if we bring them all 4, they are fine. They don't freak out. But if you separate them, they go meow, meow, and they sound like little birds. And the mom followed me, which I expected. But the mom jumped up and was going to snatch one. Because the mom will grab, if they go out of the pen, the mom will grab it by the scruff and bring it back in. So that was pretty, I thought that was cute. I've never seen her because, we actually, all of our cats we've held and stuff, it depends on the mom. Usually you don't want to have too much contact with the cats when they're tiny. It's a total myth that they won't touch their own cats if you touch them. It depends on the mom. that's more of like a bird thing. But we have had the best cats for years and years since I was a kid. And if we have kittens, we always hold them at least once a day. And then we've had the sweetest cats in the world. And they've never had an issue with like, all the weird stuff that happens with them. But other people may have another experience. But we've had so many kittens over the years that, we know how to do it. So, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Love you. Thank you to Heartbroken Survivor and to, of course, I believe it was Cousin William. In fact, I'll update this. And Arlene, thank you. Have a great night, guys. Make sure to go to the website to get all of the bibliography. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Make sure to also go to Friends of Marfoogle at marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you to the top supporter tonight. I appreciate you. Looks like that will be KT Cleans a Lot, Tennessee Mountain Girl, and with Nana of Montana in the #1 spot. Thank you, Nana of Montana. I said said a na na na. I said a na 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 na. Na 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 na. I said a na 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 na. I said a na 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 na. Na 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 na.